association in terms of increase. There are issues around the percentages, as has been published in the past couple of days. But for us, the build-up of the legacy fund, the critical area it has to go to is into that community game, because we want to make sure that we get a return on that investment.
I think that just one build Brent's point there is we believe there's enough opportunity in this deal and the way we've structured it and all the modelling we've done that everyone in the game can benefit, and we're taking a whole of game approach to the way this all works and hangs together. And a lot of it is, interdependent when you look at the way we've structured our modelling and shared that very openly. So we're convinced that this can benefit everyone in the game, and it's an opportunity for real reset, so we can make those investment choices that our team has talked to bring those alive. So no one needs to go backwards here as part of the work we're doing at all. In fact, we only see strong upside for everyone in the game.
But what's happened in the last year, though, it's obviously critical that this goes through, because of COVID and the losses and the like. So you've obviously put that across.
Yes, I think we've had a bargaining group that's been negotiating with the players for some time. We've been in mediation. There's still a way to go. It's part of the process.
With the funding, will there be any Māori specific investment into Māori rugby?
Yeah, absolutely. So as part of the short-term stakeholder investment, we have certainly identified the Maori Rugby Board as the, custodians of Māori rugby for us in New Zealand. We've certainly provided a number to them once this transaction goes through. So obviously, until that happens, there is no extra funding at the moment. And certainly there are, as we look at the Legacy Fund, we certainly see that as particularly important for all parts of the game, particularly Maori Pacifica, women's rugby, some of the areas that we haven't had the capacity to invest in. So really exciting.
And the Māori Board's spending a lot of time at the moment developing some of the work streams and strategy as to what flowing more revenue and investment into the game might look like for them. And so we've had really strong interaction with Farah and their board around some of those possibilities. And we've had really strong interaction and connection through the consultation phase as well, in terms of strong protections around tikanga, te ao Māori and those sort of areas. So I know Farah's been very open about that, and we've had independent support in terms of a report done on that as well. So it's been very, very important for us through the process.
Do you think we might be able to see a few more games for the Māori All Blacks with this visit?
Well, look, I think around our international schedules there's always competition for space, isn't there? So we're certainly hearing lots of different ideas around what the All Blacks schedule might be, Black Ferns, All Blacks and Māori All Blacks, and we just keep working on all those possibilities as we go. But yeah, we would love to obviously provide those opportunities.
Mark, just back on players and the Legacy Fund. We understand an option was put forward by the association that money goes directly from the players' percentages at the moment to the community game directly, as opposed to the Legacy Fund. Is there a reason why that model wouldn't be preferred by the union?
Well, as I say, I'm not going to get into all the details, as some of those are being referred to in mediation. But all I say is we believe there's an all-game approach here that can sit where the Legacy Fund is the best avenue for which that investment to be made and for those funds to be brought into, so that we can have as I said earlier, a whole-of-game approach with a governance structure that certainly represents all the interests of the game and all the potential beneficiaries, be that players themselves, who will obviously be delighted to have player involvement on that, as well as provinces and clubs and other areas of the community game. So that is what we believe is the best avenue to work through the investment of the game at the moment. But we remain open to ideas, and we'll continue the dialogue in those space around different possibilities.
Will those investment funds that you're giving to certain sectors, like women, Māori for example, will they be protected, or will they be the first to go like we saw during COVID? When you were hit during COVID, you cut women's rugby straight away. Will that be the same in the future?
Well, I disagree with the premise of that question.
Oh, okay.
I think when COVID came, we faced potential of not surviving. Our revenue dropped 55 million, but our loss dropped just 5 million. We had to cut hard, deep and fast in every area that we could. Anything that wasn't essential spending had to go. So I disagree with the premise of your question. If you look at the Legacy Fund, consider it something similar to an endowment fund, where there will be applications that will come in for expenditure, whether it be Pacifica, women, Maori, clubs, whatever it is, come through, and the case is considered by the Legacy Fund, and then as the funds are allocated, people have got to be accountable for the way in which that's spent. So that's the broad framework of what we're looking at.
And maybe just if I build on that, Brent, in the short term, Zoe, dedicated funds we put aside for women and girls as well. So obviously we've got a very exciting Rugby World Cup in 2022, and as part of that we really want to supercharge the women's game. So as part of the short-term stakeholder investment, we have also ring-fenced money within there, particularly for women and girls. So using that to accelerate on top of money that's going to provincial unions, clubs, Maori Rugby Board and so forth, where women and girls could also be beneficiaries as well.
The players would argue that their concerns go beyond just their own finances. They'd say that, that they're trying to look out for the soul of the game. Is it up to Silver Lake? Beholden on them, they've said nothing to anyone apart from you guys. Is it beholden on them to kind of come forward and outline what their plans are and how they would monetise this deal? Because that would probably, if people got a clearer idea of that, it might set a lot of fears at ease. But so far they're just faceless American billionaires.
Well, that's unfair as well. I mean, Silver Lake have had a strong involvement in this consultation process over the last 5 to 6 months.
But not publicly.
No, we've been working really carefully, and we've been quite open ourselves about the level of information we've shared publicly because of the commercial sensitivity and the nature of the work we're doing. So the work and the connection time that Silver Lake have had with players, former coaches, our provincial unions, has been significant. Hours and hours on Zoom. Unfortunately, we're in a situation where they can't come down to New Zealand and see us face to face. So we're having to do everything by Zoom. But they have certainly put up lots of strong cases and modelling that shows some of the work and opportunity that can help monetise the game and monetise that underutilised fan base that we have around the world that we all know that we can hopefully do better with. So if you talk to, I think, anyone around, certainly the AGM today, there's not many people that haven't had some form of contact time with Silver Lake and frankly being universally impressed with the kind of people they are. They have strong, the two lead people we've been working with have strong connection to the game. They both grew up playing the game. They've spent time with former All Blacks on Zoom and been, frankly, like kids, excited kids around meeting people like that and enjoying time with them and getting a better sense of what it means to be an All Black and a Black Fern and the importance of the legacy to the game in our country. They have invested a huge amount of time to try and understand as best they can what the game means to us and try and get inside the DNA of the game. And I think they've done a great job doing that. They've certainly given confidence to a lot of the people around our game as to what they can bring, both culturally and in terms of the capability.
When do you think the public might be able to get a glimpse of that vision, and given how important rugby and the All Blacks are to New Zealand?
Oh, well, I don't know if we can put a time frame on when we can, make people from Silver Lake available. I think it's more important. We've obviously got a process now to work through with the RPA, and that's where our main focus is going to be over the next little while. Where Silver Lake can be helpful in that, I'm certainly sure they will be prepared to be involved. But now it's very clear in terms of the next step. The exact timing of that's obviously not quite clear.
And I think just the important.
On that, Mark, if I could. For an investment commercially to grow and the All Blacks to be seen more around the world, that's obviously what they want and you'd like also. So when could that be? You just talked about possibly more games with the All Blacks or whatever. I know we're in a global pandemic, but next year, could we see some significant movement?
No, I think it's really important. We've never said there'll be more games for the All Blacks, and it's something we've been clear with. Certainly through the consultation phase at all levels, but I've heard the speculation in the media. Private equity investors, from what we are hearing coming into the game, be it CVC or Silver Lake, not want to have more and more and more rugby. It is simply a fallacy to suggest that is what their focus is on, and we've never supported that thesis either in terms of what it means for player welfare, which is our number one concern in the game for all of our participants right across the game. So to suggest that it's going to be more and more rugby and playing and travelling circuses and all this thing is just frankly ridiculous. They've got a thesis, I think, which is aligned with ours, is how do we create more premium content, stronger narratives around our competitions, which drive more revenue with the same or potentially less rugby. That is where ultimately we'd like to get to for the game. And some of the work going on internationally at the moment, if you look at what's happening with World Rugby and SANZAR, a lot of consideration has been given how we can utilise the July and the November windows together to build a stronger sense of what that might look like and be able to drive more value out of that. So to suggest it means more and more and more games for any of our players is simply not true.
Nikki, I wonder if, in layman's terms, could you tell us what the financial outlook would be if this deal didn't go ahead for the union?
Yeah, so we've talked about today our cash reserves, so it's sitting around 68 million. So that's sufficient, but it doesn't provide the impetus to fund all parts of the game. So from a professional sense, we probably could keep going for a period of time, but it doesn't see extra money going back into the community game, which is really why we're looking at some of these other alternatives to accelerate that investment. So we're okay. I don't want people to leave here today thinking that we've got a burning platform. We've done well from a financial perspective to manage through COVID, but what we aspire for the game and how we want to transform the sport and invest back into the community, we can't do that on the reserves that we have today. And so we have looked at other vehicles, we've looked at a number of different options, and we believe this is by far the most compelling.
Just to add to that, the financial model for New Zealand Rugby up until now is 11 years of break-even or small loss and 1 year of profit, namely the Lions tour. So that's unsustainable going forward. So we could amble along, but all of the things that you quite rightly ask us to do around expenditure, we can't do. So it's fundamentally what it comes down to.
Essentially today, over 80% of what we spend goes into the professional game. So it's not a big dividend that's available to invest in the community game, in women's rugby and Maori rugby, all the things that we would like to do. And so what this deal does, it's not just about the capital coming in, really important, it's actually about the capability. So partnering with someone who has that global expertise, because we think the value creation is coming from offshore. The Kiwis already pay, a lot of money to be able to support our teams, which is fantastic, because it's part of our, national identity. But actually, we believe that revenue growth is offshore.
Do you have any sort of plan B if the players do veto this investment? Could you look to fund expansion from debt, or are you working on any sort of alternative budget?
No. The answer on debt is simply this. We don't actually have any assets other than our commercial rights. So as a director, I couldn't sign a substantial debt facility because A, I couldn't warrant that it could be repaid, and that's really the critical part. As Nikki said, we've looked at all of the other options, and this is by far the best, not only in terms of the investment in, but the opportunities, particularly offshore, that we can grow that revenue.
And if the players spike the deal, they'll be spiking the future of rugby in a sense?
Well, I've made a statement last night about that, and I think it would be a terrible mistake if the players don't eventually support this deal. A really bad mistake for we talk about the community game, but it's the kids running around the field. Go to the Weymouth Rugby Club, where they're really struggling with the kids with no boots, jerseys, struggle to get coaches. I mean, and that's replicated in many parts of New Zealand. So we're trying to solve that as an issue, and this is the plan to do that.
There might be one last question. If everyone's finished, we might wrap it up here. Maybe do some one-on-ones.
And just one question: if the players do veto, is that going to create strain in the relationship? Is they going to face some kind of punishment by New Zealand Rugby? Is someone going to have to pay a price?
Look, the players are an absolutely critical partner in our game. Like they are really central to everything we do. They're a strong part of a lot of the revenue we drive. So we just need to take some time, settle down a little bit, step back from this, and then have another go at sitting down and talking about it. So no, we're not in that space at all. These things happen. There's a lot at stake. The players care deeply about the game. They want to do what they think is the best thing for it as well, and we're trying to do the same thing. So, we will get there. We just need to spend some more time when the time's right to come back and look at the opportunities and try and understand each other's perspectives a little bit more. But, it's really important at the moment that we recognise that as well. Even though there might be bits and pieces of frustration and speculation in public, that they're a true partner, and we want to work on that basis in good faith.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.